quiet Wednesday afternoon, a tidy little home in Indianapolis, a woman missing, her young son watching cartoons on the couch, and a husband just getting home from work, none of them knowing that what lay behind a closed shower curtain would unravel a chilling mystery. Inside that bathtub, partially submerged in lukewarm water, was 41-year-old Malvina Krutz. Her clothes were disheveled, her pants missing, and her underwear rolled down to her knees. Her body twisted, as if it had been forced in, alive but unconscious. She drowned. But who would do this? And why? It's January 29th, 1958. Charles Krutz arrives home just after 5 p.m. and notices something strange. His wife's car isn't there. Walking into the house, he sees his 10-year-old son, Buddy, watching TV. When Charles asks where his mother is, Buddy casually explains that she said she'd be delivering newspapers. Odd? Yes. But what's even more bizarre is how Buddy last spoke to her, through a closed bathroom door during lunch. He never saw her. Just a voice telling him to eat his sandwich and head back to school. Charles starts poking around. The house is small, just 2 bedrooms with a bathroom in between. And something feels off. Toys are strewn around in unusual places. Pillows on the floor have dark stains. Blood, maybe. Mucus. A bedspread laid out like someone might have been lying on it. Torn, wet pants lie tossed aside, presumably Malvina's. But it's the closed shower curtain that really catches Charles's eye. That curtain was never closed. He pulls it back, and there she is. Malvina's body is found fully clothed on top, shoes still on. But her lower garments are missing or displaced. The water is lukewarm. She's still warm. There's no rigor mortis. She hadn't been dead long. The scene hints at a struggle, a broken towel rack, scratches on her forehead and scalp. And then there's the pencil, an unassuming yellow pencil with a few strands of hair stuck to it. It's traced back to a local electric company in another city. Thousands were distributed. It could have come from anyone. Malvina had water in her lungs. She drowned, but not accidentally. She had been hit in the face, rendered unconscious, then dragged, possibly using rugs from her son's room, to the tub and placed inside. Her attacker had intentionally left her to drown. But there were no signs of forced entry, no valuables taken. And though the scene initially suggested sexual assault, the forensic tests didn't confirm it. There were no definitive signs of rape. So what was the motive? Her car, oddly enough, was gone. Found a day later, parked over a mile away. Inside was a paint-smeared rag, maybe used to wipe the windshield. And then, 2 more pieces to the puzzle. Malvina's friends, Mildred and Florence, said they called her that day, and a strange man answered. In the background, they heard Malvina's voice. The man mumbled something like, "Tell her I'll pick her up at 1:30. Strange, right? Especially because they had no plans to be picked up. They were supposed to just visit the house. The women arrived at Malvina's home around 1:45 p.m. and had to stop to let her car back out of the driveway. But it wasn't Malvina driving. It was a man. They waited inside the house for 20 minutes, then left a note. What they didn't know is that Malvina was quite possibly already dead in the bathtub, just feet away. Then came the fingerprints. Police lifted several from around the house, and at least some of them didn't belong to family or officers. One was eventually matched, but the person was quickly ruled out. Soon, detectives turned their eyes toward 2 men who had been working on renovations in the Krutz home. Robert Smith, a wallpaper installer, and Leroy Pennick, a painter. Both had been in the house. Robert was seen with Malvina 8 days earlier. Leroy allegedly told a bar owner on the day of the murder that he had slapped a girl around and left fingerprints all over the place. The bar owner refused to give him an alibi and reported it to police. Leroy failed 3 polygraphs. Each time he showed strong emotional reactions when asked about Malvina and the house. His background? A World War II vet with head trauma. and a history of dizzy spells. He admitted to police that he'd been arrested 18 times and boldly stated that he knew polygraphs couldn't hold up in court. But despite the suspicion, there just wasn't enough to charge him. The physical evidence never tied him to the crime scene definitively, and after 7 days, he walked free. But this wasn't Leroy's last run-in with murder. In 1962, he was arrested for killing his partner, Carol Jean Martin. She was found battered and bruised, ultimately dying from strangulation and a cerebral edema. Leroy's story shifted in court. First he blamed alcohol, then he claimed she fell. Eventually, he suggested someone else had done it. The jury didn't buy it. He was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life. The similarities between Carol's murder and Malvina's are hard to ignore. Both women were found in the privacy of their homes, injured and left without help. But nothing ever conclusively linked Leroy to Malvina's death. Then came the false confession. In 1958, months after Malvina's death, a man named James David Rogers was arrested on unrelated charges. In custody, he claimed that he killed Malvina, said they met at a cafe, that he hit her, panicked, and put her in the tub. But his story didn't match key details. He didn't mention the friends who saw her car leaving. His timeline was off, and he claimed she came out in a robe to make lunch, when her son said they only spoke through the bathroom door. Eventually, Rogers recanted and blamed someone else. Then another. Then another. His credibility crumbled. Through all of this, Malvina's estranged husband, Charles, remained a figure of quiet suspicion. He had been unaccounted for during a critical window the day of her death. He said he went to lunch, got a shoe shine, couldn't remember where, and visited a friend. But police noticed inconsistencies in his statements. His clothes looked too fresh. The story about entering through the back door didn't align with earlier statements. And then, there was the divorce. Just weeks before Malvina's murder, she had filed for divorce from Charles. In the filings, she accused him of marital misconduct and neglect of conjugal duties for over 10 years. She had even sought a restraining order, citing concerns for her son's safety. Their court date to resolve the matter? Scheduled for January 30th. Malvina was murdered the day before, so let's recap. A woman on the verge of leaving her husband. A man with a violent history. A friend who can't explain his time off work. Multiple suspects, fingerprints with no names. And a murder that, 66 years later, remains unsolved. But why would someone commit such a brutal, calculated act? Was it a crime of passion? Or maybe something more sinister? Perhaps the killer's motives weren't rage or sexual assault at all, but shame. Maybe the murderer felt emasculated by rejection, by impotence, by a failing marriage. It's possible, just maybe, that this crime was committed by a man who felt so small, so humiliated. He needed to drown the woman who no longer respected him. Could it be that this killer was driven by the unbearable weight of not being able to perform? What do you think? Comment below with your theory. If you liked the video, please press the like button and subscribe. And check out other videos on our channel. We've got a lot of other stories about murders that are not resolved to this day.